Today I'm going to be going over the first session of Digital Art Sketchup, so using Sketchup free, and I'm just going to be going over the basic commands just to get you started, opening files, and just to understand how to use the visualization software. So the first thing you'll see when you open SketchUp is this menu. You're going to want to make sure that you're opening SketchUp free. So if you're on the SketchUp website, then you'll see under products, you'll have the option of SketchUp free, and you'll just want to select that, and then just click Start Modeling. And from there, to open the file, there's an exercise file called exercise file 1 shed. You want to go on My Computer, and find the file and just open it. And that should open the file in your SketchUp. And as soon as you open that, you should see a basic viewport. So in the middle, you'll see your model, your basic model. And then on the sides, you will see toolbars. So the left toolbar has all your key tools. And then on your right one, you have more tools to do with visualization of the model. And things like scenes and views, and entity info, and we'll go over those as well. So when you start, it's important to remember what this toolbar at the top does, and this is all about to do with opening and saving files. So once you've when you want to open a new file, then you'll find underneath here, you'll have your open options. And then if you want to export the file, so you can export as a PNG, which is to save it as an image. If you want to save an image from your file, then you can do that. Or to download it, which will download this file to your computer. So that will be the key thing to save it. Otherwise, it will only save to your Trimble account. Not to your computer if you click this save button. So download is important. And so the key functions are in the center. You'll see that on the left toolbar, you have your select tool. So if you drag on your left click mouse and drag and hold, you can select an object. So that's quite an important tool. You'll see your eraser tool as well underneath that, but we'll go over these tools here. We'll go over next session. These are more to do with actually drawing shapes, and as well as the move tool, which is to move objects. The measuring tape tool is important for measuring distances. So if you just drag that over a distance, then it'll measure that distance. And it's important to check as well that your model is in the right scale. So in this one it is millimeters, and you can check that by going in model info and make sure it's set to millimeters. You can change that if you want to centimeters, meters, but I recommend millimeters just because it's the most accurate and you'll get the most precise measurements from that. So when you go, when you look at your main navigating tools, this will be on the bottom of the left toolbar. You'll have your orbit tool. So if you click this orbit tool and hold down your left mouse, you'll be able to orbit around the model around a certain point. So this is a really important tool for visualizing, just to move the camera around. But there are also several other commands. If you do have a mouse, then you can click down the middle scroll wheel, and this will be an easy way of just orbiting, even if you're selecting another tool. So if I'm just using my select tool, but I hold down my middle scroll wheel on my mouse, I'll be able to orbit around quite easily. Next, you have the pan, which is below the orbit, which looks like a hand. If you just select the pan, you'll be able to move around the model sideways, or up and down, which is a good way of kind of orbiting, or at least moving along these very simple planes. And you can actually press the H key to quickly swap to that. So that's a helpful shortcut for that. Below the hand, you'll see the zoom. So if you click that and you click down, left click, and you move your mouse forward, holding it down, or move it back, then you'll zoom in and out, which is also very useful. Another thing to remember is if you have a scroll wheel on your mouse, you'll just by scrolling up or down, you'll be able to zoom in and out as well, much faster. Next, you have underneath that the zoom window. So this is the zoom icon but in a box. And if you draw a box, then it'll basically zoom, give you a zoom into that box area. And below that, you have the zoom window, which has a similar command, but will basically zoom into zoom such that the model will fill the space. So this is useful if you're kind of lost track of your model or you've kind of gone too far off. You can just click zoom extents, and you'll zoom into the model view, which is very helpful. A good thing to note is that with all these commands, you can look at the more specific instructions for these using the instructor tool. So whatever you selected, it'll give you information. It's on the right toolbar, the little graduation cap. You can it'll tell you more precise instructions about how to use all these tools. So if you're ever struggling, it's useful to know this, that you can use this. Next, just above the orbit tool, you'll find these tools that look like feet, and these are your kind of the human. I guess the person. If a person was the point of reference for the camera, these are your tools. So if you ever wanted to create a human view of your model or whatever you're creating, then you can use these. So you have you have this tool, which is the position camera tool, which is just kind of a figure of a silhouette of a person with an X on their feet, and that will just position the camera at head height at whatever location you choose. And if you just select a point in front of the shed, and then below that you will see the eye, and this will look around. So this will, as opposed to orbiting where the whole camera will orbit, with the look around tool, the camera will be fixed in a point, but you'll be able to look around that point. So that's also a very helpful visualization tool. And next, above that, you have the feet, which is the walk tool. So just by clicking on that, and same as with the zoom, if you just hold down your left click and move forward and backwards, you'll be able to see how it would look if a person was walking. So a faster way of doing this might be to use your arrow keys, which will allow you to kind of move in a very predictable way with your arrow keys. So another good way of kind of walking around, experiencing the model as well. So next, we'll kind of, now that we know or are more familiar with these moving around tools, and we can actually put these to use with how we use our views. So it's important to understand that in Sketchup there are two options for how you view things. So there's perspective, which is where, as in real life, you view in perspective, you'll see that things that are closer to you will appear bigger, and those further away will appear smaller. So that's kind of the perspective view. But you can also have the parallel projection, which means everything is in proportion. The way you will change between these two styles of view is in this views menu. So this is the kind of the clapper, the clapper kind of icon in the right toolbar. So if you just click on that, and you will see immediately that you have this menu, and on this side of the menu there are two cubes. One of them is in parallel projection, the top one is in perspective. So just alternating between these two will change parallel projection, and this is perspective. And then in these toolbars themselves, so for example in parallel projection, which is in parallel, so everything will be in proportion to one another. All the lines as you see them will be to the correct dimension. For example, if you click the roof view, then you'll see the roof, or the elevation view. So this parallel projection is very useful if you want to use a simple way of basically of just kind of creating very straightforward views, which in an architectural sense are very useful, just to create a good idea of what the model's dimensions are. So the next aspect of the views toolbar, which is helpful to know, is the scenes tool. And the scenes basically lets you save a scene, so a view of the model that you've created, so that you can quickly return to it whenever you want. So there's only two scenes on these models, but we'll delete these quickly because we don't really want these scenes, and we'll return to the same style. So with the scenes, you will want to create a scene by clicking on this plus button on the left side of the toolbar, and this will basically save a scene of the model. And once you have the scene saved, no matter where you navigate, even if you change to a perspective view, or if you have different styles, which we'll go over later, then just by clicking on this scene, you'll return to this scene and just have this view. So it's a really helpful tool if you wanna save some views so that you can quickly return to them. And another feature of the scenes toolbar is that you can create animations. So if I were to create another scene, say if I wanted to create a roof scene from the top in a parallel projection, if I save this scene, another helpful thing to remember is that you can name your scenes. So just to kind of make it easier to navigate to them, I can say roof view, and this is just a standard view. So if I click on this scene and then press this play button, then it will alternate between the two scenes. Obviously here this is a bit too fast, so if we just